He achieves control in refraining from evil. Due to the effulgence of divine recognition there is also increase in the effulgence of his manners and good qualities. Then he becomes like those described thus in Quran. Their light shall run on before them and on their right hands, light upon light. 95. And also, light upon light. 96. The light of worship would be increasing the light of divine recognition, and the light of divine recognition would be increasing the light of worship. Apparently the preceding light is the effulgence of faith and the light to the right is the light of good deeds. The first stage of faith is verification mixed with doubts. There are stages for this too. It is also possible that faith is also mixed with polytheism. The same is mentioned in the following verse. And most of them do not believe in Allah without associating others with Him. 97. This level of faith is not faith, it is called Islam, where there is scope for doubt. In Surah Hujurat it is said, the dwellers of the desert say, we believe. Say, you don't believe, but say, we submit, and faith has not yet entered into your hearts. 98. The middle stages of faith are those in whom, in addition to testimony, there is no doubt or suspicion. Such believers are mentioned in the following verse. The believers are only those who believe in Allah and His apostles, then they doubt not. 99. When traditions and verses speak of faith, they mostly imply this level of faith. Those only are believers whose hearts become full of fear when Allah is mentioned, and when His communications are recited to them they increase them in faith, and in their Lord do they trust. 100. In the higher stages of faith also there is a faith, immune to and purified of doubt. But there is increase in them in divine realization and taste of fidelity, seeing Allah through the eye of one's faith and tasting the sweetness of faith. This is the perfect love for the Creator and a zeal for seeking His proximity. Such believers are described in verses like the following. He shall love them and they shall love Him, lowly before the believers, mighty against the unbelievers. They shall strive hard in Allah's way and shall not fear the censure of any censurer. This is Allah's grace. He gives it to whom He pleases. 101. This high level of faith is called utmost certainty IQN, as the following verse indicates. And they are sure yuqinun of the hereafter. 102. The Messenger of Allah is quoted in Usul al-Kafi that he said, righteousness is that you worship Allah as if you see Him. This is the stage of utmost certainty IQN. All the three levels of faith are mentioned in the following verse. On those who believe and do good there is no blame for what they eat, when they are careful of their duty and believe and do good deeds, then they are careful of their duty and believe, then they are careful of their duty and do good to others, and Allah loves those who do good to others. 103. Just as there are three levels of faith, corresponding to each level there are levels of disbelief also. As Allah says, surely as for those who believe then disbelieve, again believe and again disbelieve, then increase in disbelief, Allah will not forgive them nor guide them in the right path. 104. Belief is a higher stage than Islam. In this way the higher stage than belief is fervor and certainty of faith. There are three stages: knowledge of faith, positive knowledge and certain truth. Allah says in Surah Takathur, nay, if you had known with a certain knowledge, you should most certainly have seen the hell. Then you shall most certainly see it with the eye of certainty. 105. Surah Waqiah says, most surely this is a certain truth. 106. Amirul Mu'minin A.S. says, even if the curtains are removed there would be no increase in my faith. Thus the three stages of belief are: knowledge of faith, seeing smoke man knows there is fire, positive knowledge man sees fire with his own eyes, and certain knowledge man can touch it and create faith in its existence. Three stages of infidelity. Like belief there are three stages of infidelity also. The first is doubts in the principles of faith, such as Allah, the Prophet, angels, the Holy Quran and the hereafter. The Holy Quran states about such people in Surah Tawbah, their hearts are in doubt, so in their doubt do they waver. 107. The second stage of infidelity is that man remains in doubt about these five fundamental principles, without even trying to verify whether they are right or wrong. Allah says in Surah Nahl, so as for those who do not believe in the hereafter, their hearts are ignorant, and they are proud. 108. The third stage of infidelity is hatred to the truth, besides having doubt and refusing the truth, and here man even tries to destroy the truth. Allah says in Surah Mujadilah, Surely those who act in opposition to Allah and His Apostle shall be laid down prostrate, and indeed we have revealed clear communications and the unbelievers shall have an abasing chastisement. 109. Just as man earns different stages of heaven, in the same way he becomes eligible for stages of infidelity. Each stage of infidelity makes one eligible to a particular category of hell. In the same way, there are 3 stages of hypocrisy also. 1 if one has outward faith but doubts the truth. 2 if he manifests faith but has doubts in it, and without researching the truth he denies it in the heart. 3 he claims to follow the truth but harbors enmity in the heart. The abode of such a one would be the lowest stage in hell with a very painful chastisement. Allah says, surely the hypocrites are in the lowest stage of the fire. 110. A condition of a true believer. Ishaq bin Ammar says that he heard this tradition from Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq a.s. Once the Holy Prophet saw a man in the mosque, who was sleeping with his head hanging down. He was pale and his eyes hollow. So the Prophet called him by his name and asked, how have you started the morning? He said, O Messenger of Allah, I have started the morning in a condition of certainty. The Prophet said, every certainty has a reality. What is the reality of your certainty? He said, O Messenger of Allah, this certainty of mine has aggrieved me very much. I have spent a sleepless night. My hot day because of fasting will pass in tolerating thirst. My soul is tired of this world, and whatever is there in it, and has turned its face away. The matter has reached a stage that I can see. All is empyrean ready to take the account of the creatures. All are gathered and I am also among them. I see heavenly people absorbed in divine blessings, greeting each other and sitting on their thrones, and as if I see people in hell getting severe punishment and crying, and as if I see the flames of the fire of hell and could hear their cries. The Messenger of Allah told his companions, this is the man whose heart Allah has illuminated by divine effulgence. Then the Prophet told him, always remain in this same condition. The young man said, O Messenger of Allah, as I am your devoted servant, pray for me that I am able to achieve martyrdom. The Messenger of Allah prayed for him. After a few days he was martyred in a holy war. 111. Obligatory and recommended deeds. In Usul al-Kafi, in the same section of Belief in Infidelity, there is a chapter denouncing the causing of hurt to the Muslims. The Messenger of Allah said, I asked my Lord on the night of ascension, what is the position of a believer near you? Allah replied, my believer seeks my proximity only with deeds that I like most. That is, he performs whatever I made obligatory on him. Though I like that besides performing the obligatory acts he should also aim at my nearness through recommended deeds. When I begin to like all his deeds, I become his ears so he may hear with them, I become his eyes so that he can see with them, I become his tongue so that he can speak with it, I become his hand, so that he can get everything through it. If he calls me, I answer him, and if he asks something from me, I grant him. Deviation of the Sufis. Allama Majlisi writes in the explanation of this tradition, that according to Sheikh Baha'i this tradition is authentic and it is famous among Shias and Sunnis with some minor differences. Some sentences of this tradition, like I become his ears so that he can hear with them, are misinterpreted by Sufis and believers in transmigration of soul. They have gone astray themselves and they mislead others. This wrong belief says that God forbid. Allah can come into anything and can transmigrate anything in himself, God forbid. In the same way, union with God is also a wrong belief. It means that God forbid Allah unites with other things and becomes one with them, and then there is no difference between Allah and that thing, and God forbid everything became God. Allama Majlisi says that reasonable explanations of these traditions are available. They use metaphors, and such use is common in the traditions and Quran, and they are not against the faith of the true believers. Then he gives the sayings of scholars and mentions his opinion. For the sake of brevity we narrate only the saying of Sheikh Baha'i. People of perception. Sheikh Baha'i says, for the people of faith, lofty things and secrets are hidden in these statements. Such points that only people of taste can perceive. Their souls are imbued with a fragrance that strengthens their worn out bones. Only one who has practiced penance can adopt these points. One who has devoted his body for a holy war. Only such a one can obtain divine recognition through such statements and understand their Meanings. One who does not understand them and one who is not able to obtain divine recognition from these treasures, there is nothing for him except to obtain base physical pleasures. Such a person is being tested. Generally when he hears such statements, he runs a risk and mostly deviates to transmigration and unification. Allah is much exalted and supreme than this. This can be understood easily by all. Fondness of Allah's proximity. Such statements imply the perfection of Allah's proximity. They express the sway of love over the person's inner and outer dimensions and his being hidden and apparent. But Allah knows better. What we understand is that, I love my servants. I grant him my attachment. He becomes completely attached to me. I keep him in a condition of sanctity. His voice and thoughts remain fully attentive to the unseen world. I take over his five senses. As if I become his ear. That is whatever he hears for me. As if I become his eyes. That is whatever he sees for me only. Many traditions are available regarding the stages of faith, grades of the people of certainty and their excellence. They can be referred to in Usul al-Kafi, chapter of Belief and Infidelity. Our intention is to remind that belief may be of any stage, but a true believer must not stop here. On the contrary, he should try to obtain all the honors of all the three stages of belief. The great signs of certainty. If Allah's favor and grace descends on anyone, he grants him the light of certainty in his heart. This light can spread in his whole heart. In such circumstances all moral defects and evils are removed and he obtains all kinds of good attributes. The Holy Quran says in Surah Furqan, "So these are they of whom Allah changes the evil deeds to good ones." 112. Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq A.S. says, "Certainty of faith makes people scale every lofty and astonishing stage." The Messenger of Allah s. explained the dignity and grandeur of certainty when he was told that Isa ibn Maryam a.s. walked on water. He said, if his certainty had been more, he would have walked on air. 113. In the beginning we have quoted Imam Ali Rida a.s. that the signs of certainty of faith are reliance on God, submission to Allah's will and surrendering the results of our efforts to Allah. Amirul Mu'minin Ali a.s. has said, certainty of faith can be seen in the world in the paucity of hopes, in the sincerity of the deeds and in the piety and fear of God. 114,321. The following is also narrated from him. Patience and piety, and sincerity and obedience are the fruits of certainty and belief. When the tree of certainty grows in the heart, its fruits are good manners and lofty attributes. Certainty is peace and doubt is perplexity. The following tradition of Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq a.s. is present in Usul al-Kafi. Allah the Exalted, on the basis of justice has appointed happiness and comfort in certainty of belief and sorrow and grief in doubt and unhappiness. A person with certainty of belief experiences heartfelt peace and comfort. He surrenders the results of all such deeds to Allah. He says, "It was my duty to act and I have done my work. Now it is up to Allah, whether He helps me or not through this. Allah is the knower of everything. If the result is against His will, He does not become aggrieved. He does not become unhappy with Allah. He never says, against the will of Allah. If it had been so, such a man never becomes proud even if the result is according to His will. On the contrary, he thanks Allah. Allah says, no evil befalls on the earth nor in your own souls, but it is in a book before we bring it into existence. Surely that is easy to Allah, so that you may not grieve for what has escaped you, nor be exultant at what He has given you, and Allah does not love any arrogant boaster. 115,322. Everything belongs to Allah. This verse shows that if the people of certainty do not get something they desired, or something they had is taken away from them, they do not become sad. In the same way, if they get something they do not become proud and vain. They consider themselves slaves of Allah and they do not consider themselves independent of Allah in any way. People of certainty are satisfied in all conditions. People of certainty are never fearful and aggrieved even in the most unpleasant circumstances and severe calamities. They never feel alone. They associate all their affairs to Allah. Instead of being troubled, they repose all hopes in the omniscient and omnipotent Allah with utmost patience and dignity. They make efforts according to Allah's commands but leave the results of their efforts to Allah. That Allah may do as He likes. They know that nothing happens without Allah's will, permission or leave. Whether the will of Allah is for mercy or justice, every will of God is for the good of man. Even if He puts man to tests, He intends good for him. Hence, disease or good health, prestige or disgrace, riches or poverty, honor or dishonor. Whether people appreciate Him or not, even life and death, all are same for the people of certainty. They know that whatever the result is, it would be for their good. Indeed, true peace in the world and the hereafter is only achieved by the people of certainty. Allah says, "Those are they who shall have the security and they are those who go aright." 116. Allah also says, "He it is who sent down tranquility into the hearts of the believers that they might have more faith, added to their faith." 117. Satisfaction, tranquility, peace and security are the signs of certainty of belief. While the opposite of these are fear, loneliness and sorrow. These are the results of doubt. Fear and hope only from Allah. A person with certainty of belief in Allah has neither hope nor fear from anyone. If he fears his sins, it is also due to the fear of Allah. He hopes only in Allah for grace and mercy and for the forgiveness of his sins. The center of his fear and expectations is only Allah. Even if he flees from a beast or an enemy, it is not due to fear. He flees from them because Allah has commanded us to defend ourselves. If he hopes from someone, it is also because Allah has commanded us to seek cooperation from each other. In fact, his hope is from Allah only that Allah would accomplish his work with the help of others. Allah says in Surah Ali Imran, "Those to whom the people said, 'Surely men have gathered against you, therefore fear them,' but this increased their faith, and they said, 'Allah is sufficient for us and most excellent is the protector.' So they returned with favor from Allah and His grace, no evil touched them and they followed the pleasure of Allah and Allah is the Lord of mighty grace." 118. Importance of a deed is based on certainty. Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq A.S. has stated, "A small deed, performed regularly with certainty of faith is better in the view of Allah than a great deed performed without certainty." 119. Amirul Mu'minin, Imam Ali A.S. has said, "Man does not taste faith till he does not obtain knowledge and certainty. Because what he has got was never to leave him and whatever he has lost was never going to come to him. And the one who gives profit or loss and one who tests us in all ways is only the high and mighty Allah." 120. It is better to sleep with certainty of faith. Imam Ali A.S. heard about a Khariji man of Naharwan that he was very constant in performing the midnight prayer and reciting the Holy Quran. Imam Ali A.S. remarked, "To sleep with certainty is better than praying in doubt." 121. The excellence of certainty is such that all the religious personalities, even the Prophet, used to beg Allah for its enhancement. Faith, knowledge and certainty are one and the same thing, and a huge body of Quranic verses and traditions mention its excellence. Love of the world. Love of the world is one of the severe physiological diseases and the greatest sin of the heart, such that all the past prophets have denounced it. The Holy Quran has condemned it more than any other sin and prohibited it. The Messenger of Allah and the Imams have narrated about it in widely related traditions. A few of them are presented here. First of all, it is necessary to know what world means and what is the love of the world that is made unlawful. What does world mean? If the Arabic word for world, dunya, is on the weight of sufra, small, its meaning is clear. If its root is taken as dnw, its opposite would be akhirat, hereafter, which means the most debased. However, if its root is dnyt, lowliness, its opposite would be loftiness. There is no doubt that the worldly life is very low, for many reasons, than the life of the hereafter. While the position of the hereafter is much elevated and excellent. World is the period starting from the time a child is born till the time his soul is separated from the body. The world, with all its necessities, is the place which provides food, clothes, house and other comforts. Like health, children, property, honor, reputation, power, gaiety and a happy social life to man. In other words, the life of man from birth to his last breath denotes the world. Only deeds remain. But prayer, fasting, hajj, poor rate and other worship acts are those voluntary actions of man that he performs on Allah's commands. In the same way, drinking wine, fornication, gambling and others crimes are forbidden by Allah. Though all these things are related to this world the everlasting God has made their effects everlasting. Man must perform these acts in his name and his remembrance. Or in other words, it can be said that if man performs the duties commanded by Allah and refrains from those things prohibited by him with the intention that all this is for Allah, though related to the transient world, the effects of all these actions would be everlasting. That is why they are called deeds of the hereafter and not of the world, so much so that even if their preliminaries are for Allah, they would also be considered as deeds of the hereafter. Worship is an action devoid of the love of the world. For example, if a man obtains wealth and decides to save it for spending it in the way of Allah, and then later he spends it on his children and family, pays the poor rate, helps his relatives and performs hajj with a sincere intention, this action of saving money would be construed as his asset of the hereafter. It can be said that worship is something completely devoid of the love of the world. But since a sin is committed in the love of the world, its hatefulness is not perceptible, that is why it is necessary to hate it. In this way this topic goes out of the scope of our discussion. In brief, it can be said that love of the world denotes the worldly life and losing oneself in all its necessities, all the pleasures and sensual desires. However, worship acts and sins are different from this, in which their commands are also clear. For the eternal world, in the discussion about principles of beliefs we have explained in detail that it is necessary for man to bring faith in the fact that he is not going to be annihilated with death. Man is not created like animals to take birth in the world and then die and become dust. Man is not created only for this world. Rather, man is a creation that has to remain forever, who after taking birth once is not annihilated. Death only creates a distance between him and his material body. His example is like that of a bird that is liberated from the confinement of a cage. After death he finds rest in a world that has no restrictions. He would remain there without having any grief or anger. He would be in a stage of such comfort and peace that there would be no worry and trouble. It is such a success where there is no imagination of failure. Death is a source of respect and capability after which degradation and insult can never approach. In conclusion, it can be said that it is a fortunate lifetime, in which happiness would never come to an end. Love the hereafter. But success in the eternal life is only possible if you leave this world with faith and piety. Faith and piety are the two wings that carry you to that high world, where success depends on the level of one's faith and piety. It is obvious that obtaining faith and piety and to reach that perfection is only possible in this world. Because, after death, you only have to bear the consequences of your deeds. You will be recompensed according to your deeds in the world. In fact, man is a traveler who has to gather, in this world itself, the provisions of his success and salvation after death. It is this matter that highlights the importance of this brief worldly life. Love the world for the hereafter. Every person with foresight loves this life and prays for a long life. That is the reason that traditions forbid praying for one's death. Rather, it is commanded to always pray to Allah for a long life, so that there is increase in your good deeds and your faith and piety keep on increasing. And be fearful of an early death, because such a person knows well that good deeds, that are assets for an everlasting success, are only possible in this world, while after death no more deeds can be performed. In brief, we can say that the life of this world is a channel for the everlasting life of the hereafter. That is why intelligent people like it for themselves. Numerous traditions and verses of Quran throw light on the importance of the life of this world. In Surah Qasas, Allah says, "And seek by means of what Allah has given you the future abode, and do not neglect your portion of this world." 122,329. In the same way it is said in the blessed Surah Mu'minun, "And I seek refuge in thee, O my Lord, from their presence, until when death overtakes one of them, he says, Send me back, my Lord, send me back." 123. Worldly bounties for the pleasure of Allah. Since obtaining worldly bounties and pleasure causes enhancement of divine recognition, and man, after getting all these bounties, becomes attentive towards Allah who is the source of every bounty, the man of intellect prefers it for himself. It is mentioned in Surah Ali Imran, who has prohibited the embellishment of Allah, which he has brought forth for his servants and the good provisions. 124. And in Surah Araf it is said, say, who has prohibited the embellishment of Allah which he has brought forth for his servants, and the good provisions, say, these are for the believers in the life of this world, purely theirs. On the resurrection day 125, though both the believers and the disbelievers benefit from these bounties, they are actually created for the believers so that through them they can enhance their love for Allah and they can increase their divine recognition, and in this way success of the hereafter can be assured for them. It is better if it is for the hereafter. In other words, if the embellishments of the world, comforts and luxuries and the various kinds of bounties are lawful and there is no scope of wastage in using them, then their utilization is lawful for man. However, if attachment with all these things is accompanied with an intention that through them one must achieve everlasting rewards, then this would be a praiseworthy and preferable behavior. Like a man who loves his wife because due to her companionship his religion is safe and he does not fall into sins. Also that one should consider one's wife a bounty of Allah, that due to her one obtains peace and comfort and that she is the medium for producing offspring for him that would continue his generation. It is also necessary to love one's children because they are gifts of Allah. If the children are trained properly and become righteous, the parents also share the rewards of their good deeds. There should be love for wealth and worldly riches because they are bestowed by Allah and through them one can obtain success in the hereafter. There should be love for various good things because they are all expressions of the power and elegance of Almighty Allah. And through them it is possible to enhance one's faith and divine recognition. And only these kindle in one's heart the eagerness for Allah's proximity. If one is able to achieve power, honor, wealth, official position, grandeur and reputation, one should like them because through them one can perform acts that Allah likes, like helping the oppressed and taking revenge on their behalf from the oppressors, and helping the poor and the helpless people. Temporary love of the world is not blameworthy. Taken as a whole, if the love for the world and things related to it is for Allah and the hereafter, it will not be considered as love of the world, which is the topic of our discussion, and blameworthy in the light of Holy Quran and traditions, because such a person does not love a thing for its own sake, permanently. And his love for the world is only due to his love for Allah and the hereafter. Such a person is like a traveler whose aim is just to reach his hometown. And he wants nothing more than the fulfillment of his basic needs. If during the journey he sees something that would be useful for him in his hometown, he tries to obtain it. The conclusion of this discussion is that the love for the world is not a blameworthy act. However, in the view of Quran and traditions, the blameworthy thing is to love the world wholly and permanently. Imam Ali A.S. heard someone abusing and blaming the world and said to him, "O you, who are blaming the world, certainly, this world is a house of truth for those who look into it carefully, an abode of peace and rest for those who understand its ways and moods, and it is the best working ground for those who want to procure rewards for life in the hereafter. It is a place of acquiring knowledge and wisdom for those who want to acquire them, a place of worship for the friends of Allah and for angels. It is the place where prophets received revelations of Allah. It is the place for virtuous people and saints to do good deeds and to be assigned with rewards for the same. Only in this world they could trade with Allah's favors and blessings, and only while living here they could barter their good deeds with His blessings and rewards. Where else could all this be done? 126. Signs of the love of the world for the sake of the hereafter. It is necessary to mention that sometimes man doubts that his love for the world is only for Allah and the hereafter, and he does not love it completely and permanently, while as a fact he is completely bound in the love of the world. Because if his fondness of the world is for Allah and the hereafter, he would hate to commit sins. He would not look at the wealth and property of others with jealousy and contempt, and his heart would be pure of miserliness, pride, enmity, self-conceit and revengefulness. Permanent love of the world. In order to know the difference between natural love and independent love, it would be necessary to consider the following astonishing statement of Imam Ali A.S. He states in Najul Balagha, "If one sees through it, it would bestow him sight, but if one has his eye on it, it would blind him. Therefore, Look at the world keeping in mind its transient nature. Break away your hopes from it. Consider only the hereafter as the abode of eternity and become attached to it. Make this world a medium for obtaining the hereafter. The world would blind one who loves it permanently and who tries to obtain it for himself. That is, he would not notice the transient and defective nature of the world. He would attach himself wholly to it and become negligent of the hereafter. Such a person would be deprived of insight, that is, the eye for reality. One who loves the world just for worldliness and prefers its joys, pleasures and comforts for this aim and considers himself fortunate, surely becomes negligent of Allah. Considering himself in need of worldly causes, he thinks that they are everlasting. This is the reason that he harbors great hopes. He devotes himself for achieving it. Such a person becomes neglectful for the hereafter, or he mostly denies it. Being careless of every sin and unlawful thing, he considers worldly achievement a surety for his happiness, and in the event of failure to obtain it, he becomes sad and disappointed. This is the meaning of the love of the world that both reason and religious law have denounced. Ranks of worldly love. There are 3 levels for the love of the world for its own sake. First level. This is the stage when a person does not love anything except the world and what it contains. He is not desirous of anything except material desires. He considers Allah and the hereafter as useless and imaginary things and says, "There is nothing but our life in this world. We live and die and nothing destroys us but time." 127. They mean to say that man has an animal existence and death annihilates him. Apart from this there is no other world for him. Thus it is necessary that as far as possible he should try to fulfill his desires. Loving the world too much. Second level. It is of the one who loves the world completely and permanently, and with it he also seeks the hereafter. He asks for success and salvation in both the worlds and makes efforts for getting happiness in both, but in the depths of his heart he loves the world more, considers the world as higher and more important than the hereafter, and when it is time for him to choose between the two he sacrifices his hereafter on the world, like Umar ibn Sa'd martyred Imam Hussein a.s. for the governorship of Ray. This example proves true for all those who seek power and fame, who are prepared to commit any crime for a position of power, even if the crimes are harmful for their hereafter.